Hello and welcome to another edition of Strategic Gaming. My name as always is Mac Taylor, here to talk to you today about Phase 3 and 4 of Survivor Palau as we go from 8 to an eventual winner. It's been a fun season so far, and let's continue to break it down. So Katie is basically gossiping about Janu, and Janu calls her out on it, and they had this big blow up, and Greg just wants to keep Janu around for a vote, just to use her to vote people out, even though that she gets on his nerves, and the explosions with Katie just aren't welcomed. So we get a team water tower challenge, and the reward is a Palau feast. So we get Ian, Jen, Katie, and Steph against Tom, Greg, Karen, and Janu. Tom, Karen, Greg, and Janu win reward, but they do bring back food. And even though Janu at the reward, she eats like too much and throws up a little bit, and then comes back and eats some of the food that the people who didn't go on the reward are eating. So that pisses people off. And we get an underwater, like holding your breath kind of deal, immunity. And the loser is going to go to Exile Island. So the first person up goes to Exile Island. Janu, first one out, so she will go to Exile Island. And then the elimination order is Karen, Katie, Jen, Steph, and Greg. It comes down to Ian and Tom. Tom wins second immunity in a row. On Exile Island, Janu, at first she's struggling, but then she has this weird thing where she's like getting into it, and like, this is the best experience. I'm by myself. I can enjoy just living out here in Palau. Janu is a strange cat. So Greg, he tells Tom about wanting to take out Steph. And Tom's like, I don't know if I want to take her out right now. I'd rather maybe think about something else. And Steph, she's worried it's her. And we get this huge thing at Tribal Council where it signs are pointing to Stephanie going out. And Steph is breaking down and crying, because Janu says, well, I really don't care about being here anymore. I had my experience, especially with the Exile Island things. I don't care about staying here. And Greg's like, well, we're not going to vote out Janu, even though she wants to go home. We're going to vote out Stephanie. And Steph cries and is like, I want to be here so bad and have somebody that would rather just quit and not do it, and they're going to make it past me because they're useless and I'm a competitor. Pisses me off. And Janu's like, okay, I'm quitting. And Jeff's like, what? She's like, I'm quitting so Steph can move forward. So Janu quits the game, and Steph is super relieved. And so this is just crazy that somebody just quits so someone else can move forward. So Jeff, throws her torch on the floor, not hanging it up with everybody else's. And we move forward. And Tom is trying to talk to Steph so that later on, if she wins, immunity, she's not coming after Tom, which is, I think, great foresight. And Steph, she's trying to feel out the group, but nobody's giving her any answers on a place she can fall into. So she's not feeling too great about her place in the final 7. And Tom is trying to, take down his threat level. And it does the complete opposite. People are even more worried about Tom with this conversation. So Steph, Katie, and Jen, they consider a girls' alliance, but they're going to need Karen as the 4th vote to take out, Tommy and Greg. So we get the Survivor auction, and we get things like beer and spaghetti and the burgers. And letters, and Tom gets a letter from home with that. And Greg and Ian are scrubbing. We're just going to cut that one out. Tom, he brings Karen into the group, fearing that Karen may flip on them. So Tom really does a lot of work here on Karen. And we get this tile break immunity. Ian wins immunity here. And Karen is offered up the Girls Alliance. And she takes that information and runs it straight to Tom. So now Tom is aware of the Girls Alliance. And then he goes to Katie, and so now Katie's like, well, there goes that plan. Can never go back to that. And so Katie then goes to Ian and is like, well, could we still vote out Tom with you? Like, since Karen's not going to vote with us, will you vote with us? And Ian's like, no. So by a vote of 6-1, Stephanie is voted out. What a journey this girl had to go on in Palau. You know, from jumping off the boat prematurely to being on the most losing tribe in Survivor history to being the only person left on that tribe, coming in and still getting to 7. So, you know, congrats to Stephanie. What a hell of a game. Tom is relieved that the 5 stayed strong. You know, because he has this 5 with him, Ian, Katie, Jen, and Greg. And they're still in the game. There's 6 people left. The only one out is Karen here. Tom tells Karen, you know, win immunity and you save yourself. If not, your spot's not looking too good. I'm sorry. Basically, he's telling her, hey, if you don't win immunity, I'm going to vote you out. And you can't blame me for that. The numbers just aren't there. And she's totally like, yeah, I get it. Karen wants to split up Greg and Jen. And then Ian and Katie have made a pact that they would take each other on a reward if they wanted. So we get a Q&A torch reward here for a big boat ride. And so Karen, Tom, Ian, Katie, and Jen are taken out. And Ian's like, wait a second. That looks like the pattern they want to vote us out in. You know, shades of Survivor Marquesas. Greg wins the reward, takes Jen and Katie, and this just cements to the rest of the group. These guys are working together. This was bad on Greg's part. These challenges, people should know by now. Just don't do your vote out order with the order of this challenge. Don't try to win it. And then if you do, don't take the 2 people you want in the final 3 on the reward. It's bad. It gives everybody else time to talk about how low they are on your totem pole and flip the game. So that was a very bad decision. Probably one of the first bad decisions Greg makes. And then now to top that all off, there's loved ones on the boat. So now they didn't even get their loved ones reward. And Tom is upset that Katie would consider going with Greg and Jen and turning on them. And so they scare Katie like, hey, do you really want to go to Rocks? Because if they go to Rocks, you could go home. So Greg, Jen, and Katie on that boat, they do make a final 3. And we get a past challenges immunity. Comes down to Tom and Ian again. And Ian going to win immunity here. And Tom, he's like, hey, if we're going to draw rocks, we're going to draw rocks. Greg has no idea that the 5 is broken. He thinks Karen is gone, not knowing that Tom knows everything that's about to happen. So, and Karen's even, you know, like, woe is me, I'm going next. Really acting to try to get everybody to be relieved. And Ian goes to Katie to talk about flipping. And Katie is furious, like, how dare you not include me in the plans, and I not in control, and that upsets me. But the vote comes out 4-2. Greg voted out. My final thoughts on Greg, I thought he was a fantastic Survivor player. He was very smart, very intuitive, but here at the 6, he got maybe a little too comfortable. Thought that the 5 was stronger than it was, and he was going to turn on them at 5. But he just got a little sloppy there at the end and lost it because of that. I'm sad Greg never plays again because I thought he was probably one of the more strategic-minded people of the early Survivor seasons. So Ian, he's worried. The girls have a 3-2 advantage. If they flip, him and Tom are screwed. Jen, she's trying to get the girls together to flip on Tom. Karen, though, she wants a final 3 with Ian and Tom. And Tom and Ian want to use the reward Tom's like, hey, if you win reward, do not take me. Take one of the girls so that I can work the 2 that are left on the beach and then you can work the person on the reward. Do not let us separate from them. And Ian's like, I got it. And Ian, he wants Katie in the final 3. Tom does not trust Katie, does not want Katie in there. So we get a car reward for it's like a puzzle race and assembly. So the car curse challenge. Ian wins the reward. And they said, who are you going to take with you into this mansion? And he says, Tom. And Tom's like, not what I told you to do, Ian. That's actually the complete opposite of what I told you to do. So on the reward, they do talk about wanting to swing Katie back over. But Katie, super upset at Ian, because not only did Ian go with Tom, but he took Tom on the reward. And Tom didn't tell him to. Tom told him to take someone like Katie and work her. Not take him. Like Ian has played very well up to right here. Right here, Ian has fucked up so bad by exiling Katie and not listening to Tom. Like he is fucking up hard. So Karen exposes her alliance to Jen. And Karen, at this point, should be the swing. You got Katie and Jen, Tom and Ian. Karen should be the swing vote. But she is all over the damn place. So she confronts Ian and Tom. And about like, Ian, did you want Katie in the final 3? And he's like, yeah, I kind of did. And it's like, Ian, what are you doing? Why are you telling her this? And then also on the flip, Karen, why are you such a bad swing voter? Just play the 2 sides and make a fucking decision. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. So Ian confronts Katie, and they blow up, and now they're both crying, and about like, I just wanted to be your friend, and Katie's like, you turned your back on me. So it's like, what is happening here at the final 5? Things are nuts. Who's going home? I don't know. So Katie doesn't trust Tom, but she does kind of trust Ian. And Tom, he wants to separate Ian and Katie because they're a lot closer than he wants someone in the final 3 to be. So we get a memory puzzle immunity. Tom wins immunity here. And Karen just throws Ian under the bus. Just hardcore. Points out all of Ian's flaws in the game. And that Ian maybe kind of considered voting Tom out. And Tom's like, wait a second, you were considering voting me out? And Ian's like, well, I was just playing the game, Tom. And Tom's like, no, I was loyal to you. And so we're like, oh shit, is Ian about to get voted out? Well, the vote comes out 4-1, and Karen is about, how the hell did the swing vote in the situation get booted so easily? I'll tell you how. Because Karen, did not make a move until final 7 is when Karen became important. Up until that point, Karen was basically barely on the show. We knew hardly anything about her, and she seemed kind of worthless. But she comes in, Tom just uses her for a vote, and when she seems so stubborn, so indecisive, he cuts her. She should have went with the girls. Like when Greg left, Greg was in a good choice, but then her, Jen, and Katie should have taken out Ian here and tried to get Tom next, and then she's in the final 3. Yes, because Jen probably takes Karen, and Katie probably takes Karen. So Karen at least gets second place and $100,000. This was this bad game. It's kind of like the Jenna Lewis debacle all over again from All Stars. Like, there was a clear move to make. They didn't make it, and they ended up here. So with that, we had the Final 4, and the celebration is a bit bittersweet. And Jen, Ian, and Katie, they discuss taking out Tom. And we get a vertical obstacle course immunity. Comes down to Ian and Tom. Tom wins immunity. And Tom promises Ian will be safe. And Ian tells Tom, like, hey, I might have wavered a bit. I might have changed the plan. Tom's super upset. So he goes to Jen and Katie, or to Ian and Jen, and he's like, did you really, were you going to vote me out? And Ian's like, I wouldn't have done it. I just thought about it. Why are you telling Tom this? You didn't do it, so don't talk about it. You don't have to bring it up. You don't have to acknowledge it. You could have just thought that thought and never brought it up. So we go to tribal, and we get a 2-2 tie between Jen and Ian. And then we get a 1-1 tie. So it's a fire-making challenge again. Ian wins the fire-making challenge. Jen booted out here. Final thoughts on the late Jen Lyon. I thought she was very smart, very cunning. She was able to hide behind Greg for a long time. And then when Greg left, she managed to get 2 spaces further. Or 1 space further by taking out Karen. You know, Jen was very smart, very crafty, and in a season without 2 guys dominating every challenge, I think she does even better. She might win. So Tom is now worried about the Ian retaliation. So Ian is on blast with both Tom and Katie. Like, Tom's like, how could you? I was your only ally. And Katie's like, yeah, just like you turned on me. So Ian's game went from he had like a 90% chance of winning the game. Then the final 5 to now it's gone to 10%. Like, Ian has just fucked himself hard. And so, he's hurt and very just upset that his 2 friends are upset at him. And we get the Remember the Fallen and an endurance immunity that goes on for 12 hours. That is insane. But Katie dropped way before. But Ian says, hey, I'm going to jump, but you take Katie to the final 2. And if I do that, are we friends? Tom's like, yeah. Are you sure you want me to take Katie and not you? Yes. Well, okay then. So Ian jumps, and then Tom jumps, and they get up, and Tom's like, I'm glad you did that. I was about to fall off anyway. And so Jeff's like, do we even have to go to tribal, or have you made up your mind? And Tom's like, are you sure you want me to do this? Ian's like, yes. So Tom's like, I guess I gotta vote out my friend Ian. And so Ian is put in 3rd place here. Final thoughts there on Ian. He didn't have to. If Ian goes to the final, if he wins and takes Katie to the final 2, Ian wins. Even if he wins and takes Tom to the final 2, he has a shot at winning the game. Ian, like I said, he really fucked himself in the final 5, and he basically gave up just to let Tom and Ian be the final 2. And I think that's the only thing that kept him from coming back. I think he was an okay player, and who knows what he'd have done with the second shot. So the jury questioning begins. Kobe slams Katie and says, if I vote for you, it's only vote against Tom. Janu talks about integrity. Steph asked Tom, well, why didn't you fight for me to stay? Greg says, why? Why should I vote Tom? And then slams Katie. Ian basically says, why don't you deserve to win? Jen asks, did you respect me? And Karen says, what was I to you, Tom? What was I to you? Kind of a bitter jury for a little bit of it. Tom's basically his answers, I played a strong game. I played an honest game. And, I did the best I could with what I was given. Katie says the equivalent of yeah, I'm here. So the vote comes out 6-1. Tom is the winner of Survivor Palau. My final thoughts on Katie. She was pretty useless for most of the season. I thought she complained too much. She was grating, and I think not a great player. Tom, he plays a very dominant game, and I think a lot of the times he gets taken out as soon as he loses immunity, like an Aussie. But he is pretty good at the social ability. He can convince people. He literally convinced Ian to basically hand him $1 million for friendship. So he was a very deserving winner, a good winner for this season. So guys, that was Survivor Palau. Join me here in just a second. Let's talk about the Strategic Gaming Awards. Who will get the best player? Who will get the worst player? Let's take it to your host, Mac Taylor. Thanks, voice in my head. For the worst game, I'm going to have to go ahead and give that to, drumroll please, Janu. She basically just, actually, screw it. I'm going to have to give the worst game to Karen. She basically kind of fumbled her way through most of Palau, had a chance to really take control of the game, and didn't. And so because of that huge blunder, she went out as a swing vote, which never fucking happens. Karen is the worst game of Palau. Best game. This one's probably pretty obvious here. I'm going to give it to Tom because he really did play a fantastic game. Very often do I... It's not so often that I pick winners as the best game, but this is a pretty clear-cut thing here. He was just dominant physically, mentally, and socially, and I really don't see anyone that really came as close as Tom did in this category. Mac's favorite player is going to have to be Greg. I really loved the guy. Jen was very close as well, but Greg, I thought in another season without Tom, I think Greg is a huge player. And now for my least favorite player is Janu. She was so bitchy and moany and just pitiful, and she quit. And I don't like quitters. I dream of being on Survivor, and that, just to see someone squander their opportunity, being like, yeah, I've had enough of this. Like, fuck you. You should have never even applied. So with that, ends my coverage of Survivor Palau. Join me next time for when we talk about Survivor Guatemala. My name is Mac Taylor. See you next time.